Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel, Sakura Seraph. I am Malashira. Today we're going to be discussing Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I know I haven't had a video up in a while, but we've had some stuff going on in real life. A big move from Arizona to Arkansas. But now we're settled, so there should be a lot more uploads coming in the future. So today, like I said, I do want to talk about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, the new Pokemon games that are coming out later this year. Some of the details and information that's been released about those games and what I think about them so far. My first thing is I really like the concept of having multiple different stories, multiple different main plots for the players to follow. Just because there are certain elements of the game that appeal to some players more than others and vice versa. There's always been some players who prefer the battles, like myself, or there's others who prefer like the contests and the side games and the Pokemon and me and things like that. So having multiple different plot lines that kind of caters to each one of those types of players was a really smart move in my opinion. I have a lot of questions about what the treasure hunt mode is going to look like, what that's going to entail, so I'm really excited to see more information about the specifics there. What I do think is an interesting change this time around is that the gyms are in no predetermined order. Every single game before this, Generation 1 through 8, there has been not necessarily a specific order that you have to do the badges in. Sometimes you can go in a different order than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, but generally that is the path that they take you on, especially in a lot of the newer games. So having the ability to go through and just fight the gym leaders in whatever order you want, that's pretty cool, but I'm curious how they're going to balance that. Just because it's always been, the further up the chain the gym leader is, the stronger their Pokemon are, the higher levels they are, the more challenging the gym puzzle and the trainers inside the gym are. So how are they going to keep that sense of scale while allowing this order, whatever order you want sort of scheme? Maybe they'll do something like Breath of the Wild where you can go fight Ganondorf, but he's still going to be final boss strength. Maybe it'll be something like that, where if you want to fight the Dragon Gym Leader, more power to you, but his Druddigon is level 65, your Bulbasaur is probably going to melt. And I'm so excited and so happy that we finally have a mainline Pokemon open world MMO. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like. Is it going to be quite as open world as Arceus? I'm hoping it's a little bit more open world than Arceus, just because it was kind of a pain having to talk to the professor and go back and forth between the camp and the different areas. I wish it was just a little bit less time consuming to jump from area to area, but that's a very, very minor issue. The fact that there is a mainline open world MMO Pokemon game coming, honestly, as long as they don't screw it up majorly, I'll be happy with whatever they do. Going back to things I want more information about real quick, they also say that there's this multiplayer mode, and they've shown a couple of clips of multiple different players. I think it's up to 4 different trainers they've showed running around together, but they haven't really given us any information as to what that multiplayer mode looks like. Are we going to be able to get together and fight gyms side by side? Are we going to be able to fight trainers on routes side by side? Or is it going to be we have like a multiplayer area that we all get transported to, and there's a number of activities for us to do that are multiplayer in that area? It'll be really interesting to see what direction they take that in. Next on my list is the Terastal mechanic that they have coming out. Now, there's been a lot of comparison of this to the Crystal Onyx that was in the Orange Island show way back in the day, and I have always thought how cool it would be to have a Crystal Onyx like that. So I'm really glad that this is the direction they're taking the mechanic in. And what it apparently does, either amplifying the power of the type that the Pokemon is or changing their type entirely. I'm curious to see if it's going to be kind of open as far as what they're able to do type-wise. Like, if I send out a Gardevoir, am I going to be able to turn it into any one of the 18 types I want? Or is there going to be, like, a prescribed number of types? Like, Gardevoir can become ice, water, and grass, and then Arcanine could become electric or rock. And, like, is it just going to be a preset list per Pokemon, or is it going to be more open than that? I really hope they do the more open-ended thing. I like the concept of being able to transform a Pokemon into any type, but at the same time, that could have some major mechanical implications on the competitive side of this. And that's what I'm a little concerned about with some of the items that they have coming out too. The first new item they really introduced for competitive play is the Mirror Herb. And the Mirror Herb really scares me, because I am super reliant on stat buff moves like Swords Dance and Nasty Plot for my competitive play. Those are the kind of moves I like to use the most. I usually like Reflect and Light Screen more than anything, but Swords Dance is my second choice. And the Mirror Herb is going to let any Pokemon that watches their opponent use a stat buffing move copy those stat buffs. This is going to counter Swords Dance. This is going to counter Nasty Plot. This is going to counter Quiver Dance. This is going to counter Tail Glow. This is going to counter Calm Mind. This is going to counter Bulk Up. Any sort of stat move that you are able to predict and switch into a Mirror Herb Pokemon with is going to be almost directly countered by this item, which is horrifying, especially if you manage to get it off on something like a Slaking. A Slaking with a double attack boost is horrifying. I don't even want to think about that. The other competitive item that they released some information about was the loaded dice. Now, this one doesn't scare me quite as much because we've already sort of had this kind of effect in the game before. Any Pokemon that has Skill Link automatically uses a move that fires 2 to 5 times the maximum number of times. Cloyster has this ability, so we've seen Icicle Spear Cloyster used to be really, really strong back in the day when we first got the ability to obtain Skill Link Cloysters. So on one hand, yes, the loaded dice is going to be very good, and there are going to be Pokemon that don't have the Skill Link ability that are going to benefit from this, but it doesn't automatically max the number out, so I don't think it's going to be quite as scary as Cloyster or Mega Heracross was. Now, they've only released details on 2 moves so far, the first one being Shed Tail. Now, right now, it looks like that might be an exclusive move for the Pokemon Cyclizar, and if it is, it's not super terrifying. But if more than just Cyclizar is able to have Shed Tail, it could become a competitive bomb. Being able to drop a substitute for a Pokemon you're switching out to is already insane. Then if you pair that with a Chansey or some other kind of Cleric Pokemon that you can then wish and switch Cyclizar back into and just heal all that HP back that you used for the substitute and just Shed Tail again. It's horrifying that this is even potentially possible. So I really do hope it is just Cyclizar that has this move, because if it is, it probably won't be super strong in the competitive. But if any Pokemon that has a tail might be able to learn this, especially things like a Tyranitar or Dragonite would be horrifying with this move. And then I also like the idea of Terra Blast. It's kind of like Arceus's Judgment, but I assume the power is going to be significantly lower. But being able to switch that move's type to whatever you're terastallizing to gives you a little bit more variety on what you can do with that Pokemon's move pool. And also, even if your Pokemon doesn't have a move that's going to get stabbed from the new type that you're switching it to, Terra Blast always will. So that's a really nice benefit of the move. It honestly almost feels like a revamped Hidden Power. It almost feels like a revamped Hidden Power. And the reason I think that is because the way it sounds like terastallizing is going to work is each Pokemon you cast has a type that it can terastallize into. Kind of like nature, you can go out and you can catch different Pokemon that are attuned, for lack of a better word, to different types. Like for example, I could go out and I could catch a Water Raichu, and then every time that Raichu terastallizes, it's going to become water type. Maybe I go out and I catch a different Raichu and it's grass. So that Terra Blast is going to change type based on the type that you're terastallizing into. So if it does work that way, if each Pokemon has the one terastallized type that it gets, kind of the same way nature's work, then yeah, Terra Blast is basically just a revamped, reworked Hidden Power that works much better in the way this new meta is going to look. Which, if that's the case, then that's wonderful. But if not, if they are going to open it up so that any Pokemon can terastallize into any type, then I'm a little bit afraid of it being a little bit overpowered. As long as the power isn't too massive on the move, it shouldn't be a huge issue, though. Alright, so let's talk about some actual Pokemon. What do I think of the ones they've released or shown us so far? Starting with the starters, I really like Sprigatito. I think it's absolutely adorable, and it's probably the starter I'm going to choose. Fuecoco, I don't love the way it's designed. I honestly kind of just want to wait to see what the fully evolved form looks like before I have any opinions of it one way or the other. And honestly, I kind of have the same opinion of Sprigatito. I'm on the side of the fence where we want Sprigatito's evolution to have 4 legs, but even if it doesn't, if it is a bipedal evolution, as long as it looks alright, I'm not going to have any issues with it. And then Quaxly, Quaxly feels too much like other water-type Pokemon that we've had before. It almost looks like it's just a recolored Ducklet. I'm not a huge fan of Pokemon that seem like they're kind of recycled designs, and honestly, it's very possible that it'll evolve into something that's a very far cry from what we've seen so far. But yeah, right now between the three, Sprigatito is absolutely my choice. Now, Smoliv it's cute, and I do like it, but cute Pokemon aren't usually the kind of Pokemon I like to go for. So I'm kind of hoping it evolves into something bigger and stronger and cooler. At the same time, though, if they do make this little Olive really powerful, that'd be pretty funny. Lechonk, I can't stand Lechonk. I understand people are into this "it's so ugly, it's cute" idea, but I just can't get behind it. It's not for me. I don't like the way it looks. I don't think it's going to evolve into something that does look cool. I think we're going to end up with another issue like Perugly, where I really like Glameow, but I just hate Perugly. I can't stand it. Paldean Wooper. I like Paldean Wooper. We haven't had a regional variant of Wooper or Quagsire yet, and I like that we're seeing new Pokemon that haven't had any sort of regional variant released yet get those new regional variants. There is a part of me that wishes they would bring up some of the older ones, like Gen 7. I'd really like to see a Alolan Muck return to the meta, but that's okay. We're in a new region. We've got new Pokemon coming out with new regional variants based on Paldea, not Alola. So I understand why they wouldn't do that, why they may not want to do that. But as long as they keep releasing cool ones like this, I think it's absolutely adorable. I love that it's poison type. That's really cool. And I can't wait to see what a poison Quagsire is going to look like. That could honestly end up being really, really strong. Fido. I do think Fido is really, really cute. Again, not for me. But again, it'll be interesting to see if it turns into like a giant croissant wolf or something. That would be really funny. Set Titan. Now this is my kind of Pokemon. It is big, it is bulky, and it looks like it's going to hurt if it hits. My only concern is how slow it might be. If it's not super slow, if its speed is like 70 to 80, it'll probably be really strong in the meta. But if we're looking at like 20 or 30, then it could still be strong in Trick Room teams. But without that, it's honestly probably going to fall behind a little bit, and I don't want to see that. I love having this massive ice titan of a Pokemon, and it'll be so cool if it does take off when the game does drop. Cyclozar. Cyclozar is interesting. I don't think they've released any details that directly link it to the legendaries, but I'm pretty sure this thing is supposed to be a pre-evolved form of the two title legendaries. Again, I'm very scared of Shed Tail, and I do hope it's specific to Cyclozar. I will say it'll be a little bit more terrifying if I am right and Cyclozar is a pre-evolved form of the legendaries and they'll end up with Shed Tail. Oh, that could get real ugly real fast as far as, again, competitive side goes. But, again, it looks like a Psycho Lizard. It's got wheels on its chest. I can't possibly fathom that it doesn't transform into the legendaries. Now, the legendaries, Koraidon and Miraidon. I like them both from an aesthetic standpoint. The wheels do look kind of stupid. Like, you can tell right off the bat, even when they first did the first intro and didn't show them being bikes or anything, you kind of got the feeling that that's what they were eventually going for. I was going to choose Koraidon. And then they showed us the second trailer, where he's running with his feet and not the wheels. What? Why? I'm going to pick Violet. I'm going with Miraidon. I do think they're both really cool. I'm getting a little bit sick of seeing Dragon-type legendaries all the time. But I know that's just a fan favorite thing. People love seeing their Dragon legendaries and having them in every generation because it's just kind of a pattern thing at this point. We kind of saw a return of the Dragon legendaries in Generation 8 with Eternatus. We haven't really had main title Dragon type legendaries since Gen 5. But I've been okay with that. We've had a little bit of variance since then. So on one hand, I don't like seeing that the legendary title Pokemon are dragons. But again, I get it. I understand why people want it. Dragons are cool. You can't deny that. Dragons are super cool. Grafaiai seems like an attempt to make something that is Smeargle, but that people like. Like I've always wanted to like Smeargle because I do like that it is a painting Pokemon. I do like the whole mimicry ability that it has, but it's always been kind of a disappointment. Competitively, it's not strong. The fact that its normal type is kind of boring, and aesthetically, it's extremely ugly. So if Grafaiai can come onto the scene and basically be an improved, better-looking Smeargle, I'm cool with that. Cloth. I am so excited for Cloth. On one hand, I do think being a crab Pokemon, I wish it was water type. And while we don't know its exact typings yet, I'm getting the feeling it's probably rock type and only rock type. Which, again, I wish it was rock water or water, but I'm cool with it just being rock type. A big old rock crab like that actually seems like a really cool idea, and it'll be interesting to see, again, what abilities it has, what its move pool looks like, what its stat spread looks like. I'm really hoping this thing can bring, it has a really nice ability, because with how big the preview made it look, I doubt its speed is going to be very high. So I hope its move pool and whatever abilities it gets make up for that, because I want to see one of these big, cool looking Pokemon just really, really succeed in the competitive scene. And the last two Pokemon that they've released information on has been Armor Rouge and Ceruledge. I know they look like Mega Man. I get it. They're really cool, and I think everybody and their grandma is going to be using these things. But that kind of immediately turns me off from them. I've never really been a big fan of Pokemon that are super popular, with certain exceptions here and there, like Hatterene and Garchomp. Um, but admittedly, they are really cool. Their typings are really unique, and odds are they're going to be really strong. So if everybody does end up using them, I'm not going to be surprised, and I won't blame them. It'll be interesting to see what kind of abilities and what move pool it is they have, in addition to what's already been shown about them. But I'm expecting big things from these two. All right, everybody, that's all I got for you today. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all next time. Oh, by the way, Wiglet sucks. I'm not using it. Bye!